All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Chris Baroni. I'm the CEO and chairman of the Lakeland Darrow Country Club and Homeowners Association. And today is April 1st, and no, this won't be a April Fool's video. Just wanted to put out some information regarding the board's decision to postpone payments for April. On that note, we can't force people to pay, and ergo we can't force people to not pay. So the idea behind this needs to be very clear. I think it is for most. We're in unprecedented times that are like none other in our history of the association and certainly beyond. Recognizing the situation and the severity of it, the impact that it's had on many of the homeowners that I've personally spoke to, many of the people around the community that I've had an opportunity to speak to. Something needed to be done, and it wasn't without careful consideration and certainly an understanding of financials, more than what the imposters would lead you to believe, I should say. The reality of the situation became more clear probably about a week and a half ago, when I had the opportunity to speak to a couple of doctors in pathology, and a couple medical professionals, actual interviews that were conducted, and a serious long-term evaluation of what's happened, not only through the medical community, but the impact on the economic impact on the association and what it could have. So this is a drop of water in the bucket for the association. I know that you've been told otherwise by people who are very lazy and don't know anything about how to run this. And as I've said before, it wasn't an accident, and we didn't just happen to stumble upon how to make over 10,000% in a year within our reserve account. And that happened through hard work and not being lazy, because imposters are very lazy and they don't want to do the work, so they'll just spend the money. Anybody who thinks that they needed to withdraw $60,000 from their reserve account is sadly mistaken and borderline hysterical, okay? That happens when you're lazy. And I'm not going to get into specifics, but I'd be more than happy to if anyone wants to have a debate on the issue. But no one will, because they know better. They'll get smoked and they'll look very vulnerable and silly in no time flat. But the offer's still out there. That being said, there is a basic understanding of what an essential function is, whether you like it or not. Because like I said, I don't like a lot of things that's going on right now. I don't think they're particularly necessary, but it doesn't matter. It's not what I think, it's what has to happen. So long as we understand that, then you know that there is no need to be cutting grass right now with maintenance. Again, this isn't a personal opinion. This is what the essential functions that are required by the federal government, the state, and the county require. So when you hear people that are saying, like, hey, given, the order has changed, obviously, from when it was like a week ago and 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, they've updated it. So as it's updated, clearly, the course is closed, because we were going to keep it open because it's an essential exercise and because, quite frankly, you own it. But given the parameters for what's been said, it is what it is now, and the compliance is there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Except when it comes to pretending that you need to pay somebody to guard doorknobs. That's not an essential function here, okay? It isn't. Hasn't been, never will be. Currently, Lorden, currently the imposters are breaking the law, period. Same thing with the maintenance crew. Listen, the grass is going to get a little high. I get it. Do I want them there? Absolutely, I want them there. But the bottom line is they shouldn't be. That's not an essential function as provided by the state and the county, okay? They're purposely undermining the association and the law for a myriad of reasons that only they could answer. We could speculate, but I'm not going to get into the conjecture of that right now. What I will tell you is that if you calculate out what, let's just say $25 an hour for a security guard, because remember, that's what we would pay, not necessarily what they'd get paid per hour. Because then you've got to give Shelby her cut, okay, or Lorden their cut. That's why you get to drive around in Land Rovers and, Mercedes AMGs. I mean, it's like David Smith all over again. By the way, never opposed to driving those nice things so long as you're not fleecing our association to get it, which is exactly what's happening here. So that being said, though, if you were to take $25 and multiply by, hold on one second, sorry about that. Oh, wait. Okay. If you were to take that $25 multiply by 24 hours, since they're there 24 hours a day, and by 7 days a week, my guess is you'd have a pretty good chunk of change. And if you multiplied that out by 30 days, you'd have a really good chunk of change. It certainly wouldn't equal anything that they've got out on paper. And if you multiply that out by a year, you're going to probably come up with over $219,000 a year to have somebody guard a doorknob. Okay. That's nonsense. That's fiscal irresponsibility. And that is another prime example of why you would be having to be told and lied to about the need to withdraw $60,000. Okay. That's because you have very lazy people trying to, play pretend as if they know how to run anything, especially a club. They don't know anything. They had that air conditioner running and heater running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even our customers were saying, why is that thing running? It was there when it was on this morning and it's there this afternoon. You guys are running that thing and there's nobody in there. Well, that's the imposters doing what imposters do. The important thing to understand with regards to this situation is when people say that, Lorden management's going to handle it case by case. First of all, Lorden management doesn't have any right or even a obligation, nor do you as a member have to go to Lorden management and give them any information regarding your personal or financial situation for them to make a decision on whether or not you can postpone your payment. The mere idea and proliferation of such information is incredibly stupid and incredibly distasteful. It just is once again a pure indication that people like Harriet Cohen and Michael Allen, Hal Siegel have no idea what they're doing, the liability of which is astronomically greater each day they make these stupid decisions. And you as a homeowner can't be forced to pay. Likewise, you can't be forced not to pay, okay? What I can tell you is this. It's not going to be the way that they were trying to do it where, if you tell a greater story or if you get emotional enough, you'll be absolved from having to pay. Once you start going that route, you again risk huge liabilities. That's why a lot of companies have done things quite differently, but I won't expect them to know that. Here's the reason for the postponement. It's an empathetical position to take given what we know firsthand is going on within our community. And the fact that postponing it doesn't mean we're not going to get it back. It just means, hey, till we can assess the financial impact on our own members, we're holding off, okay? Now, I'm sure they'd want to politicize that and create things to their narrative, but those are the facts. it was done thoughtfully and over time. And I, yes, was definitely involved in the guidance and in the advice process, as you would expect with the board of directors. It actually wasn't that difficult of a decision. It was just difficult to obtain all of the information needed to make that decision. And the reason why the association is being told to postpone their payment is because we're not going to force people to tell us their innermost sensitive information in order to not pay $163.50. That's rude. It's not necessary, and it reeks of insincerity and privacy compromises. And Lord Management, certainly, who isn't even the management company, has no business hearing any of that. And quite frankly, I'd be cautious what you'd say to anybody at this point. I wanted you guys to know that because I think that therein lies the reasoning behind what we're saying. You now know what is essential and not essential. When you hear how much is it going to cost to run the club, I don't know. How about this? Well, how much does the water cost, you mean? Because there's no need for the electricity hardly at all. Obviously not needed for the gas, but we're spending it all to have somebody, get boarded up inside our restaurant and go to sleep. Okay, we're paying people to sleep on the job. We've got video of it, pictures of it. It's happening. Okay, it's wasteful. Watering, sure, you can water, but it was raining quite a bit, so the watering could be minimized, but they wouldn't know that. They wouldn't have the clue even how to do that. Okay, you can also have a maintenance crew or someone that would be essential to ensure the electric, the water, and all of that is still operating properly, but we don't need 4 people, 5 people, 5 days a week, okay, or 7 days a week, because Saturdays and Sundays we do have one person who comes in. It's not essential. You're breaking the law. Think about it. Again, not that I don't want them there. I certainly do, but it's not what you're supposed to be doing. Same thing with the security guard, okay? That's where your money's getting pissed away. And then on top of that, it's going to be over $50,000 for the trial. And that's not going to include what they're going to have to pay when the other directors have to be reimbursed for their representation. Okay? So, allowing them to continue, and I've warned you for months, is a very bad thing to do. I've always put the association in front. So the idea, I don't even like to respond to it because it's such bullcrap, but the idea that somehow I would be putting myself in front of the association is unsubstantiated. As I said before, took a very big pay cut to do this job, and people were talking about how lucrative my pay was at $95,000 a year, which was over right around $30,000 less than what I was making prior, and certainly with no benefits and no retirement plan, and having to work 100-hour weeks or more, 7 days a week for a long time. Okay, what we were paying before was probably was easily $500,000 for the same position, for David Smith and GPL to do what I was doing. Well, actually less. They were doing less, and they weren't reinvesting any money back into the club, as we now know. I think the last time we were able to see any sort of financial information regarding capital improvement went back to like 2003 or 2007, since it was reported. It's a long time. If that indeed is true, which I believe it to be, it would come from some people that would know. That's horrible. Last year, I think we did over $200,000 in capital improvements. So please get that straight, so that way everybody understands what really is going on, as opposed to the bullshit that the imposters are trying to tell you. On that note, is also a few things that some of you may have seen with the financials, which were horrible. Not horrible as in like just integrity, the lack thereof. Many of you saw and asked about all those checks that were voided that were mine. Yeah, that's what they did. Now, keep in mind that whatever excuse they give you for voiding those checks won't be valid, because a lot of them were from like August, September, October, November. So that's the misappropriation of funds, just in a sliver, a small part of it. On top of it, there's things that they said they paid people, and then you can see that they voided it out. I believe that they call that like force accounting or force balancing. It's when you write a check and then you cancel that check, so that way the next day or for that month end, it looked like your numbers came out even. They put it out there. I mean, those are clear violations of like the rules for public accountants and for keeping track of money. And now you all have seen it. That's how smart they aren't. And, you know, writing checks and then voiding them, and then writing checks months ago and then voiding them out. All of those checks were approved by the board. We have proof of that. And that's just, like, again, a small part of the misappropriation and embezzlement that Lord Management, Donna Lee Bauer, Shelby, Wagner, Don Melching, Gloria Melching, they're all a part of that. But that's just this association. They're doing it at other associations too. They hire contractors. They take money from the top, which I think they're allowed to do. But what they're not allowed to do is hire incompetent contractors. And they'll do so because they'll give the contractor the number they need to be at, and then that contractor will cut his number so bad that he does a poor job of doing it, which is why I couldn't rely on them. And I had to get my own contractors and get my own quotes because they were unreliable. Even with our insurance policy, you saw it, and people hinted to it before, which was, they tried to get an insurance company to milk us for like 45 G's up front in cash. And then I told them, hell no, we'll go somewhere else. And all of a sudden that dropped like 20,000 some odd dollars. Well, because the plan ended up changing. Now, the overall due was the same, but I don't know about you. I'd rather pay 25 and pay the same than 45 and pay the same, especially when no one was paying attention to the number of months it was actually due. So another thing that the imposters seem to forget, which are the terms for which things are due. Okay, your insurance policy for our association is due over 10 months. They put 9 on there. So that extra month actually helped the amount of cash that we didn't need to be putting out. And so that insurance policy, again, had to be reevaluated, and that was done by me. And it was done because, quite frankly, Lord was trying to push it on as if it was the only one we could get or the only deal. And when I let them know that we wouldn't even consider it, things had to change. So that's a key element in what I mean by, understanding the full scope of what we're doing here at the club and with the association. And I get the emails some of you are passing on to me from from Harriet, basically, again, lying to you, defaming me, and saying things that aren't true. But listen, that's not really my main concern at all, not even in the top 10 concerns that I have. The most important concern is that there are some of you who believe that, and you believe it because you're busy and you're taking care of family. You're taking care of your mom or your dad or both, or you're taking care of your children, your spouse. And I get that. And I hold the trust that many of you have given me near and dear to my heart. I certainly don't want to let you down in any way, shape, or form, and I won't, and I hopefully haven't. I will tell you that there are things that have happened that some of you may not understand or think that are a little bit odd, and I can't get specific with it, but I can tell you that it was purposeful. As crazy it may have read or sounded, it was very purposeful and very well documented even before. So these things are beginning to fall in line with what I had been saying and suspected, with the web of people involved in this that are all clearly connected. So it's beginning to unravel or maybe show itself for what it is. So keep that in mind, that sometimes there is a method to the madness, and creativity and planning and execution are essential in that process. That being said, as far as the court decision goes, I know that I've mentioned to a few of you that I'm very confident in how this will end, and certainly confident, not because I want to be, not because I want you to believe me. I mean, certainly, I can't say too much except tell you that my experience, my understanding of the situation, and a lot of the time that I spent in court have led me to believe that. Listen, nobody can guarantee you how the judge is going to rule. And clearly there's one side that thinks that they're going to win, and then there's another side that says, yeah, I'm confident that they're not. I certainly could be wrong. I really don't think that'll be the case for a whole myriad of reasons. I'm not going to get into that, but as you guys will see eventually, that the truth will prevail here, and that's what's key, and continuing to move forward, and that's what we'll do. So hopefully this had a few disruptions here, but the editing won't be horrible. That you guys, understand what's going on a little more now as far as the dues for April. It is a postponement. If you want to pay, go pay. If you're paying Lorden, like I said, you're taking a tremendous risk that you may think that money is being put where you hope, but I've given you numerous warnings on what would happen if the judge does not rule in favor of validating the election, which I don't think is going to happen. I really don't think that's going to happen, and for some very good reasons. But I wanted to make sure you guys knew that. If you have questions, contact me. I sent a bunch of people who probably hadn't heard from me in a while an email, and I did so because I wanted you to know what was going on. There's people who care about you. There's people who care about the situation, and that's why the postponement's been there. And if you think that that's somehow going to not be able to sustain the club when nothing should really be running or functioning much there at all, you're not being reasonable. You don't know what's going on. And that's why I'd say, listen to what I'm saying. I've been there. You have this video. It's a good insurance policy for you guys, and that's why I wanted to put it out there. I stand to gain nothing from it other than hoping that you guys trust what I'm saying, because I'm putting it out there so that you can. All right? Please stay safe. Please be smart. Please be healthy. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen.